Hey, Read Through the Word. Today is January 24th, and we're going to be looking at Job 21 today. I'm calling today's lesson Expectations. So let's read this together, and then I want to have a talk. And this might be a little bit different than the type of lesson I actually usually do. So let's read this together. It says, Then Job spoke again. Listen closely to what I'm saying. That's one consolation you can give me. Bear with me and let me speak. After I've spoken, you may resume mocking me. Remember, he's talking back to his friends. We've talked about that. My complaint is with God, not with people. I have a good reason to be impatient. Look at me and be stunned. Put your mouth, I like it. Put your hand over your mouth in shock. When I think about what I'm saying, I shudder. My body trembles. Why do the wicked prosper? Growing old and powerful, they live to see their children grow up and settle down and enjoy their grandchildren. Their homes are safe from every fear, and God does not punish them. Their bulls never fail to breed, and their cows bear calves and never miscarry. They let their children frisk about like lambs. Their little ones skip and dance, and they sing with tambourine and harp, and they celebrate to the sound of the flute. They spend their days in prosperity, and they go down to their grave in peace. And yet they say to God, Go away, we want no part of you and your ways. Who is the Almighty, and why should we obey him? What good will it do us to pray? They think their prosperity is of their own doing, and I will have nothing to do with that kind of thinking. And then he continues. So, let's take a look at what Job's saying, because he's comparing. His friend has said, God gives good to those who do good, and he does bad to those who do bad, so you must have done bad, is what he's saying. Which is, Job says, well, that's not true. There are plenty, just think about, we're sitting in this conversation with Job and his friends, and they're unleashing their form of wisdom to him, as he's lost all of his livestock, which is his position, his wealth, his occupation. He's lost all that. He's lost all of his children, and he's lost his health. He's lost everything. And his friends are like, well, you must have done something to deserve this, Job. And he said, but that's not true. There are wicked people around me who have, they've got their grandchildren. They've got flocks that never have problems. They're prosper. Their flocks prosper. Their children run around. And they say, these people actually say, go away, God, we don't want anything to do with your ways. So it's not true that good things happen to people and bad things happen to bad people. It's not true. So what is the lesson here? And of what our expectations. That's really what I want to talk about, is expectations. This idea of, I think if you grab anybody off, is the same like with any kind of evangelism tool you've ever used. If you grab anybody off the street and ask them if they believed in God, they'll say yes. It's not the God of the Bible typically. Once they start defining how God works, it's not the God of the Bible. But if you ask, people will say yes, they believe in God, and they're going to heaven. And then there's only a few people they say will end up in hell, because God's got this scale, and they're going to weigh, and good outweighs the bad, then you're good. That's not the God of the Bible. That's not true. But that's basically what his friends are telling him, that that's the way God works. It's the same as any type of ancient mythology. You'll hear me referencing mythology a lot right now, because in my world literature class, we're looking at Sumerian mythology. We're getting ready to go into Greek and looking at ideas that cultures have had. But as you look at that, this idea of, like the Egyptians' idea, if your heart was on one part of the scale and the feather was on the other, if you were lighter than the feather, then you're good to go. But if not, you're in trouble. And so this idea that nothing bad happens to good people. Jeff's like, that's not true. These people who thumb their nose at God and say, we don't want anything to do with your ways. We don't want to bow our knee to your authority. We don't want to understand that you are the true king. People who want a kingdom without the king. That's basically who these people are. That's who people are today. So, but that's wrong. But does that mean that it doesn't matter how we live our life? I mean, the book of Revelation will tell you that. It does matter how we live our life. It does. Are those who are called to according to God's purposes. What does God expect of us? Okay, y'all know I've got 3 children, and I've talked about them before in here, and in the middle of recording this, I've had normal parenting moments with my children. So in this conversation, I am just had 10 minutes ago, really opened my eyes to some of this scripture and really made me think about things a little bit different. So I just wanted to share this with you. That one of my kids, I'm not going to tell you which kid it is, but one of my kids was having a little bit of a pouty moment about life's not fair. One of those type, yeah, y'all had them, either when you were a child or with your own children or grandchildren or family members, of that I was taking away things and those type of things. And I said, I need to have a talk with you about the word expectations. What does it mean that I have expectations of you as my child? I said, first off, do I expect you to be perfect? And, you got the look, no, Mom, no. I said, right, I don't expect you to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner, and so are you. I said, here's what I do. I said, I have expectations from you because God has expectations from me as his child. And I said, my expectation from you is this. God has made you unique and special with a brain only you have, with a heart only you have, with emotions only you have. And I expect you to take the opportunities you've been given with the gifts God's given you and glorify him in the way he's made you to do that. I said, where that expectation is missed is when I see you wasting that. When you're wasting your brain, when you're wasting your emotions, when you're wasting any of these things on frivolous matters that do not have anything to do with God and his kingdom, that's when I step in and reroute. I see you wasting your brain on things that are not going to further the work of the kingdom and what God is preparing you for, then we're going to take care of it. I can't let it go. And that doesn't mean that everything in your life is going to be perfect and that bad things aren't going to happen. I need to change my expectations. I said, I have expectations. You need to learn what that means. It's the same thing. That's what I said. It's the same thing with God. God has expectations from me. He's gifted me in ways. He's put me in places. And I said, he's not up there weighing that. I said, that is settled at the cross. That's settled at the cross. That is settled. It's done. I think some of us walk around not believing that this idea of being punished, that's done. But now, what is it like to live out me? That I've died and now it is Christ who lives within me. To live as Christ is what I want. And that level of expectations. Yes, we can take a Job, a Old Testament scripture, and look at What kind of truth are we seeing there? That is that. And that's what Job's trying to tell his friends. God didn't work like that. I might not understand this, but y'all got God wrong. And it's not that God is up there trying to throw things at us and set us off course. I think so many times the things we're going through are God rerouting us back to where we need to be for the expectations He has for us. And those are for His kingdom and His purpose. And so many times we're looking for the world. Just like Job's friends are trying to define Job's life by the things of this world. And that's what Job's going to end up finding out. Is he's looking at the wrong place to find answers. And I think we do the same thing. I just watched it happen with my child. Of thinking life's not working out right because this going wrong. And me having to reroute that to understand I have expectations of you because God has expectations of me. And I hope I'm explaining that to help you understand. Of what we understand about God here is that God's not, as much as I'm trying my best not to be a bad parent, God in no way is a bad parent. He's good. That's what Job's going to understand. And I just thought that one little moment after reading Job, and then that happened, and I'm putting a lesson together, I went, it really is it. We need to reframe our thinking. And I hope that's helpful. Please comment and let me know. This is not my typical type lesson, but God taught me something in the middle of it, and I just wanted to share it. So, see you next time on Read Through the Word.